Thrive Nation, on today's show, we dive in. Oh, yes. We dive in to the dark arts of Applied Empathy 101, the new language of leadership. While I attempt to demonstrate my new mind-reading skills that I've been honing and crafting. As an example, Jason, right now, you're probably thinking, I have no idea what you're talking about. Is that correct?
That was very correct.
Wow. Wow, okay. Well, today's guest has been a consultant of choice for General Electric, West Point, Nike, and Google. But the real mystery is, why isn't he stepping up his game and working with the big companies like Blockbuster, Kmart, JCPenney's, Babies R Us, Toys R Us, and Come and Go. No, ladies and gentlemen. Today's consultant is a B-level consultant. He only works with West Point, Nike, Google, and big companies. But we'll see if he has what it takes, because he's not really working with the big boys, the Blockbusters, the Kmarts, the JCPenney's. Dr. Breck, do you know why he's not working with those companies?
Are there any of those still in business?
You painted me into a corner.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, and yes. Thrive Nation, on today's show, we're interviewing the consultant of choice for General Electric, West Point, Nike, little companies like Google, and other leading organizations. Mr. Michael Ventura, welcome onto the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir? I
am doing well. I'm very happy to be here with you.
Okay, well, for the listeners out there that are not, familiar with you and your story, we like to start off at the bottom, at the very beginning. How did you grow up? How were you raised?
I was raised in northern New Jersey in a town probably about 15 minutes outside of New York City, and my father was an entrepreneur. My mother was in education. Both started as a teacher and then moved into more of the social work and administrator side. And I guess if you Venn diagram those 2 things, sitting at the middle, you end up having an entrepreneur who builds a business around empathy. So
nice.
That's sort of foundationally, I guess it was a good place to start.
Now, what did your dad do as an entrepreneur? Was he making nuclear reactors out of coconuts, or what was his business?
So he is the second generation of a family business that is a home heating and fuel oil business. So not a terribly glamorous job, but one that everybody needs, and one that was really oriented around service. You know, growing up, I remember when it was a cold, stormy night, and we got 6-7 inches of snow on the ground, and someone ran out of oil because they hadn't turned their oil burner on for a while, and the house was getting cold, and they had a newborn baby. My dad would be hopping out of bed and going to the office to grab the truck and make sure that they could warm their house. So, while it was, it's a small family business, only a few employees, he was very much sort of on the ground, making sure that his customers always had what they needed and felt cared for. So it was it was a really good early lesson in what good relationship management and service entails.
Can you explain to the listeners out there what you do professionally, for the people out there that are not familiar with your career now, like what it looks like on a day-to-day basis and what you do?
Yeah, so I describe it as a strategy and design practice. And what that looks like practically is that half the business is consultative. We'll sit down with an organization, we'll sit down with leaders inside a company, and they'll tell us their problems. We want to build a better culture of innovation. We want to recruit better talent and be a place people want to come to work. We need to build a product that's better than our competitor's product, whatever it is. And we will go through the consultative process of figuring out how to solve that problem through research, through conversation, through strategic planning, through all of that sort of stuff. But usually that's when a consultant ends, right? They end with the recommendation. They
Right.
end with delivering the document. That's where the second half of our business, the design studio, switches on.
Cool.
So what we'll then do is say, with all of those recommendations, here's how we can make it real. Here, we have architects on staff, we have user experience designers on staff, we have graphic designers and creative directors and writers. And so what we'll be able to do is say, if one of the recommendations is we need to improve the way your retail store looks and feels for customers, we can start to design that together. We can start to put that in place. We can start to help roll it out so that we're not just telling people what to do, we're helping them do it.
And you are certainly not a name dropper, but I need you to drop some names because the listeners out there need to know the kinds of clients you work with, because you are you don't need to hear it from me, but you're a super credible dude, professionally speaking.
Thank you. I'm turning in my chair to look at my wall, which is a list of all our active clients. So I will run down that list. This is just today, right?
Yeah.
So we've got Marriott, Goldman Sachs, the PGA, a startup in San Francisco called Keep Truckin', which is actually one of the world's biggest mobility technology solutions, so helping truckers get to and from locations every day. Diageo, which is a holding company for a lot of spirits brands. The History Channel, Net-a-Porter, New York Life, Adobe, Google, Nike, AT&T, Delta, and an auto company that I can't say out loud on the air, but it is an automotive company.
I had a list of companies because I wasn't very impressed. So I made a list of companies that I noticed that you didn't put on your list. I'm going to read them off to you, and you can tell me why they're not a client, okay? 'Cause I personally was not impressed. So it's a tough list. I'm going to read them to you and see what if you can give me proper justification.
Yeah.
Blockbuster. Why are they not one of your clients? They're huge. I love Blockbuster.
I'll tell you, I actually would love a client like Blockbuster to really think about where did you go wrong and how could we get you to write your course. I mean, at this point, I think there is only one Blockbuster left in America. It's in Alaska. But what a fun conversation that would have been.
Oh, okay. Well, again, I'm just looking for the all-stars here. Kmart, JCPenney, Toys R Us. What justification could you possibly have for not having Kmart, JCPenney, or Toys R Us? I mean, those are some hot brands. You're missing the boat, man.
See, what's funny, though, is I find something interesting in every company. I think that's why I love what we do so much. Because, JCPenney has completely missed the mark in the past few years, and they've had many attempts at righting the ship on that and have still continued to miss it. But if you look at what Macy's is doing in the past few months with really bringing in, they acquired a company called Story. They've hired a chief experience officer, and they're rolling out these experiential spaces inside Macy's throughout the country. They're really trying to disrupt what's going on there. But JCPenney and Sears and Kmart and others haven't done the work they needed to do to think that way.
Now, how much do clients pay? Is it a flat fee? Is it a contract? Are they working with you for years or months, or what kind of duration of a client relationship do you typically have?
Yeah, we're all fixed fee. We don't like retainers. I feel like retainers for this type of work, you end up spending most of your time servicing the retainer. Are we over? Are we under? Is the client happy? Or they feel like we need to give them more stuff? So what we prefer to do is just scope it out and say, look, this is what you need done. Let's roll up our sleeves and let's do it. Most of the work that we do will run for a period of, call it 4 to 6 to 8 months. So what ends up happening is most of these large organizations have multiple problems, right? There isn't just one thing to solve. But if we do our job well, we create our own obsolescence at a certain point on a problem. We've empowered them. We've given them the tools to learn how to fix this thing for themselves going forward. And we fade away for, a period of time. Maybe it's a month, maybe it's a few months. And then the phone rings again from the client. They say, hey, we've got this other thing we want to talk to you about. So while superficially it sounds like fits and starts or peaks and valleys between all of these clients, when you zoom back and look at it over a multi-year time frame, the relationship is really, it's like a retainer because we're constantly doing work with these organizations.
Now, I have a two-part question. I know two-part questions are always rude because it's hard to keep track of both questions. So we'll all go kind of slow to be nice and not paint you into a corner. But the hit TV show, Silver Spoon, starring Ricky Schroeder, great show, American show. Could you have fixed that show?
I don't know enough about Silver Spoons to say.
No guest there's not a single guest I've had on the show who remembers that people always like, I don't know what that is. I don't know. Okay, fine. I'll move on to the more difficult question. How did you go about gaining traction with your career? When did you think to yourself, wow, this is going to work, or it's working, or I'm headed in the right direction, because we all get to that threshold of Hades where we think it's not going to work and we keep on pressing on. Tell me about that moment.
So I would say it was in one of our darkest hours. It was in the 2008 recession. And at that point, I had been running a business. It wasn't called Sub Rosa at the time, but it is still the same entity that Sub Rosa is a DBA of now. And what ended up happening was I had a couple partners. The recession hit. Everyone felt like this wasn't the time for them to really be in this business, and they wanted out. And I loved what we were doing, and I believed in it, but I also knew we were structured the wrong way to be successful. And so in that dark moment where it felt like things were imploding and my partners were leaving, and I just had to kind of retool things, it also gave me permission to really have that blank slate to say, well, I have nothing else to lose. Like, this is either going to fail miserably or I can change it. So what are we going to do to change it? And we asked ourselves some smart questions about what our clients need, what we do well, and how we could grow our business together. And we just rolled up our sleeves and started practicing what we preached. And our business, what happened at that time is it gave me a shot in the arm that told me that I'm doing the right thing by asking questions. I'm doing the right thing by being willing to take risks, by being willing to fail, because I believe in the potentiality of what this place is.
You are an interesting dude, and you wrote this book called Applied Empathy, the New Language of Leadership. What inspired you to write that book, and what's that book all about? So it's a great question, because I think what happens with consultancies generally is you get a credentials document where you sit down, you're going to take a client through all the reasons why you're smart and they should hire you. And somewhere on slide 3 or slide 4, you're going to have some italicized word or phrase. And that word or phrase is your differentiator. And you're going to say, because we're great at this, we're going to be great at this for you, right? Right.
And we had one of those too. And we called BS on it. And we said, you know what, we need to make sure that whatever it is that's our differentiator, it must be more than just an italicized word in the deck. And so we went back and made ourselves our own best client. And we said, let's figure out what it is we do really well. And as we unearthed years of projects and looked at what was successful and what was unsuccessful, we kept coming back to this idea of empathy. And specifically empathy being cognitive empathy, not like being nicer to people or the golden rule effect of empathy, where like I know how to treat you because I've felt this way once before myself. Not that kind of empathy, but cognitive empathy, which is about really training the muscle of perspective taking, of getting out of your shoes, standing in the shoes of someone else, asking them questions that you really need to understand in order to understand their perspective, their point of view, where they're going, how they got to this point, and then using that insight to ultimately inform decision-making and solutions. And so when we came around to that and realized that that was a real thing, we said, okay, look, we're not going to just go run and sell this to clients. Let's write a curriculum and let's go teach it. And so we went down to Princeton and we ended up getting a deal with them where we could teach this class for a 12-week course to undergrads, and we taught it for 3 semesters. We then taught it at West Point. After having gone through both of those academic institutions and really field testing this, we said, now it's ready for prime time, and we started to use it with our clients.
You know why I don't like applied empathy? Do you know why I don't like it? It always works. It always works. It always works. Every time you use it, it works. And there's too many sales, too many deals. Pretty soon you're over. Pretty soon you're making too much money, and I hate money. That's why we do this business show. We talk about it. No, but seriously, I mean, this move works. There's somebody out there fighting you right now. There's somebody out there getting it wrong. Somebody who's doing the opposite of this. You have got to have seen some common problems where you've seen this happen over and over, and you're going, come on, America. If we would just do the move, and then you go, wait a minute. And you wrote it in that book. Give us just a couple super moves, just a couple super moves that we can use.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the easy ones I think anybody can do is ask the hard questions sooner, right? I think a lot of people wait to ask the hard questions for when the house is on fire, right? But a good organization, a good culture, a good leader, a good brand knows that we've got to ask those questions that we maybe don't want to hear the answers to, and we've got to ask them pretty quickly so that we can ultimately get to the right answers. And so that's one thing. The other thing is that you have to be willing to do what you find out in asking those questions, even if it means doing something you're uncomfortable with. And so I'll give you an example. We're working with an organization right now. Their leadership team told us a couple months ago, look, we are not willing to take big bets because two of us are going to be retiring in the next few years. And we're not looking to, change this business or, make a new legacy for ourselves. We've made our legacy. We just want to ride this thing out. And we said, look, you've got a bunch of employees who work here who are expecting change, who are expecting progress, who are expecting the business to continue to evolve. And they said, well, that'll be something for the next leadership team to tackle. And we got, all the wind knocked out of our sails when they said that. And we sat down and we said, look, is that really what you want, or is there something else? And then after talking about it, what they started to share, what they started to realize was it wasn't that they didn't want to do it. They were just afraid that if they did it and it didn't work, it would sully their legacy. And so we said, well, let's figure out a way to protect your legacy. Let's figure out a way to let this be something that's not just your decision, but a decision by the leadership team overall. Let's make sure that this is something that's ultimately going to make your legacy even more powerful and transition power from you to these other people in the next few years. And just in that reframing, just in that understanding where the problem really was starting from, we were able to bring them into a place of confidence as opposed to a place of fear.
Was this story a little bit about Blockbuster? A little bit, because they were. I don't know if you were trying to go back to the Blockbuster theme, or if you wanted to talk the whole show about silver spoons. I'll do. If you want to focus on Ricky Schroeder, probably the best actor of American history that never had a hit show and really never got traction in his career. If you want to talk about that or Blockbuster, that's fine. You can hog the mic. It's your show. But we have a show sponsor here. Josh, he has a company called Living Water. It's grown it's a sprinkler and irrigation system company. He's a show sponsor, and he comes on the show with me and interrogates great folks like you. So, Josh, take the show up a level. Keep me from asking more dumb questions.
Hey, Michael, how are you, sir?
Hey, doing fine. How about you?
Hey, thank you so much for spending some time with us. So those of us who have small businesses, so obviously you've worked with Nike and Google and all these huge brands and GE and all that stuff. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of small business guys like me that have, 12, 15 employees, they look at these huge companies and say, oh my gosh, they have all these people who can implement all these action strategies. So on a smaller scale, as far as an actionable item through your book, applied empathy and things like this, what's a small scale thing we can do as small business owners to change our culture, to change our trajectory, to change our direction?
So, great question, because ultimately we didn't write this book to just focus on working with large organizations. I want to see every organization use empathy as a tool to help evolve their business. So a question for you before I answer your question.
Yes, sir.
How often do you make your business a priority versus your customers a priority?
So I work at least 1 to 2 hours a day on my business as opposed to just in the business.
Great. So, and is that true for your employees as well, or is that more something you're spending the time doing?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part, Michael.
I said, is that something your employees also do, or is that something that's your time split is that, but not necessarily theirs?
Not necessarily theirs. A couple of our key managers, they're spending time on the business, but not necessarily the rest of the staff with the customers. So
I'll tell you something we did for our organization. We're a 45-person company. We're not that much bigger than yours. And one of the things that we did that was critical was we said we are going to dedicate 1 day a month to working as a team exclusively on our business and the problems that we have here. And so that might be we need to update our website. That might be we need to write a new case study. That might be we need to spend the day recruiting, meeting those candidates that we haven't had time to meet so that we can make that new hire we need to make. But we said to ourselves, if we can't give our own business 12 days a year of our full attention, we're selling ourselves way short. And that decision a few years ago has dramatically changed our ability to focus on ourselves, to prioritize, and to ultimately get stuff done. We get so much done in that day because we've got all hands on deck, right? And our clients benefit from it too, because then when we're working with them, we're made better because we've focused on ourselves when we needed to.
Where is your company located?
We're in New York City.
And what website address do I need to go to find your site?
wearesubrosa.com.
Okay, wearesubrosa.com. Okay, now I'm going to get it. This is kind of like I know you got to go here in just a moment to go dominate the world, so I'm going to just fire off 3 quick questions for you, okay? Question number 1, you can tell the world anything right now. You could send everybody a text. You could send them a long-form email. I don't care. you could tell the world a message, what is that message you want to share today?
If you make the effort to make empathy a part of your leadership, you will understand your customers, you will understand your employees, and probably most importantly, you will understand yourself better.
What book would you recommend in addition to your book? Because right now I'm going on Amazon right now. Andrew, you're my accountability partner. You see me doing this. Andrew's going on Amazon right now. He's going on there, and he's going to buy a copy of your book, and he's going to leave a review about today's interview. Okay, so it's going to happen. You're going to see a review coming through from Clay Clark here in just a moment. You'll know that I did it because you'll see the review. Talk to me about this. What is a book that someone should buy in tandem with your book? Because I know you're a well-read guy.
Sure. I like a book called The Messy Middle. It's a book by a guy named Scott Belsky.
Yes.
Belsky.
We had him on the show. We love Scott.
Oh, amazing. Scott's great. And I like Scott a lot, and we've known each other for years, and I'm not just plugging his book. I think what he talks about in The Messy Middle, which is that everyone talks about how things start and everyone talks about how things end, but no one ever really focuses on the slog that is the middle of building something, and he really focuses on that, and I think it's a great insight for people. Okay,
now my final question, I'm just being honest with you because I really want to know, and I think the listeners want to know too. Back in the day, I know you went to Blockbuster with your dad or your mom, and you went in there and you can get like a pound of Twizzlers. You could reserve a movie. You could reserve Terminator 2, put that thing on hold. You get that buttery popcorn with like 4,000 calories of saturated fat. I mean, you could do all that. What was your favorite Blockbuster memory? Your favorite memory of Blockbuster, the great business that unfortunately never became one of your clients? Because if it was one of your clients, you would have fixed Blockbuster. But share with us your favorite Blockbuster memory.
Yeah, you know what it was? It was it was kind of like when you rev your engine and then you drop it into first gear and then you just like peel out. Like that was essentially what would happen when the door would open and my folks we'd walk in and I would just tear down an aisle and look for like whatever the next new thing I wanted to see or play was. And I'd usually end up renting a game for my Nintendo or whatever it is I was playing at that time. And one movie that we'd watch as a family, and it was like you'd get to do something that you're gonna get to go deep on yourself, but you also got something you can sit around with your folks and your sister and watch something together. And it was an experience to go to the store and pick that stuff out and to negotiate and to have those conversations. It was great to do that.
I have a kind of a new skill I've been refining. I can actually read people's minds. So I'm going to try this in a moment here. Okay, here we go. Nintendo, when you're into the game, you're into a Nintendo game, you're into the NES system, Nintendo Entertainment System, you got the Power Glove, the whole thing, you'd rent it. When a game would lock up, like Tecmo Bowl, where if you had Bo Jackson, you won all the time, when a game like that would freeze up, how did you make the game work?
Well, you'd take it out and you'd blow in the inside.
Yes! Jason, I can read minds.
That's true, you can.
I can read the mind.
You've proven on multiple occasions.
I knew what he was going to say. I read minds. Every time I ask that question, people said, and we've never talked about it, and they didn't send out, there wasn't a website, there wasn't an email blast. It was an urban legend that spread like a blasty blast all over the world, and everyone in the world knew you blew in the game, and that's what matters. That's what matters. Now, if you're out there today and you're playing Nintendo, you should probably stop and pick up a copy of this great book here called Applied Empathy. Applied Empathy. And someone's saying, well, what do I type into Amazon? It's Applied Empathy, the new language of leadership. Mike Ventura is a great American, great author, fascinating story. We loved having you on the show, my friend. I hope you have an awesome day.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It was probably the most fun I've had in a very long time, so thank you for that.
Thrive Nation, if you're out there, I encourage you today not just to learn these concepts and these processes, but to actually apply those things, apply these principles. Dr. Breck, do you feel like you're a much more effective manager now than you were 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
Without a doubt, absolutely.
If you could go back and give your younger self just a little bit of advice about what you wish you wouldn't have done 15 years ago, maybe just one management tip where you say, younger self, don't do that. Younger self, that is a poor way to manage people. What advice would you give your younger self?
I would like to take a whole binder back and give my younger self that binder. But if I could only say one thing, it would be the application piece that you just mentioned. Don't procrastinate. Get on it. Take action today.
And I want to make sure that everybody out there understands this idea. In America today, there are 327 million people, 327 million documented people in America. And you have roughly 27 million people a year that get the courage up to start a business of some kind. All right? But 9 out of 10 people that start a business fail. Well, why is that? Because A, either you don't know what to do, or B, you know what to do, but you're just refusing to do it. And if you're going to be successful, you're going to have to start to do things that only exceptional people do. You're going to have a to-do list every day. You're going to have a calendar every day. You're going to have to not watch TV. You're going to have to turn off social media. And T.D. Jakes, the very exceptional minister and evangelist, he talks about this during some of his sermons. I want to play a little audio excerpt from T.D. Jakes as he explains the difference between exceptional people and people that merely just want to get by.
So Jesus, who is exceptional, is having a conversation with ordinary. And exceptional and ordinary always have a conflict. Anytime exceptional people dwell in the midst of ordinary thinking people, there's always going to be conflict.
Think about that. There's always going to be conflict. When you go home after listening to this show and you tell somebody you know who's not successful, hey, here's what I'm going to be doing as a result of today's show, just be ready for them to seriously question what you're saying, to be skeptical of your methods, to think that you're crazy. I mean, Dr. Breck, when you started telling your staff about the importance of gathering Google reviews, have you ever had pushback? Maybe not from your staff, but from other staffs about getting Google reviews?
Yeah, we did. I mean, where are we going to do that? How are we going to do that? What's the point? Yeah, there's definite lack of buy-in initially.
Jason, have you ever had pushback, not from your clients, let's say, but have your clients ever had pushback when they try to implement something like the group interview or writing content on their website or building their website on WordPress or creating a simplified logo? Have you ever had a client that's had some serious pushback from people within their organization about the best practice systems that are proven to work?
Oh, absolutely. Like all of my clients have been super gung-ho, and like let's say they have a logo idea and then they tell their team, oh, it's going to be an awesome font-based logo. And they're like, font-based? No, we need to have like a giant flaming hedgehog. I'm like, no, all the most popular brands have, just font text-based logos. Or, hey, your team has to get 15 Google reviews this week. That way you guys can stay top. Or they have to write content or follow this script. And he's just like, I'm trying to implement, but my team thinks I'm crazy.
And it really does come down to the crazy people that are successful. It really comes down to the people that are passionate and they will not stop. The people that will not quit. You have to be an A player to be a successful person. You have to be filled with this maniacal passion and focus, this myopic complete. It's a myopic, maniacal, passionate focus about growing your business if you ever want to achieve time and financial freedom. And so I wanted to cue up an audio clip from the late, great Steve Jobs. Since he's dead, I thought we probably can't try to reach out to him to have him on the show, but here is an audio excerpt from what Steve Jobs has to say about the importance of having passion within your business.
You have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing, and it's totally true. And the reason is because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, if you're not having fun doing it, you don't really love it, you're going to give up. And that's what happens to most people, actually. If you really look at the ones that ended up, being successful, unquote, in the eyes of society, and the ones that didn't. Oftentimes, it's the ones that are successful loved what they did so they could persevere when it got really tough.
Even that idea is controversial because most people, Dr. Breck, you know this, don't love their jobs.
Right. No, most do not.
Most people don't look forward to going to work.
They don't have the passion.
Most people can't wait to get done working.
Right.
Most people want to leave the office as soon as possible because they're not engaged in their jobs. And you're going to have to be engaged at a different level if you want to become successful as an entrepreneur. And I know you have both the capacity and the tenacity needed to succeed. If you've yet to attend an in-person Thrive Time Show workshop, this is your time. Go to thrivetimeshow.com and book your tickets there. But before doing that, read the reviews. We just had a conference this past weekend. Just read the Google reviews. And if you say, well, those could be fake, those might not be real, then watch the over 1,000 YouTube video reviews from real business owners. We have over 1,000 video reviews. And you might say, well, what if those are fake? then go on there and read the iTunes reviews or whatever you need to do. But I'm telling you, this is your time to thrive. Book your tickets today at thrivetimeshow.com.
You will not regret it.
You won't regret it, and we cannot wait to meet you. And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom.
¡Quiero ser el rescate!